Hey y'all, how we doing? Shout out once again to Bear Nation for tuning in to another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. I am your host, Rob Napoli. The Bear Necessities is a podcast where we sit down with entrepreneurs, ecosystem partners, and innovation folks to talk about what it takes and means to launch, create, and scale business across the world. We talk about the journey and the challenges of being entrepreneur-minded and how that translates into your journey, giving you the tools and knowledge to overcome challenges that you may be facing in your life's journey. The Bear Necessities is part of the Rise Up Media family, and we thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get into the show. If you hadn't already heard about it, or you don't already know, my new book, The Social Soul, How to Master Your Personal and Professional Brand with Intentionality and Authenticity is out now. You can find it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Go check it out, purchase a copy, let me know what you think, leave me a review. I appreciate y'all for the support. Can't wait to hear from you what stood out the most. Hi y'all, how we doing? We're back again for another episode of the Bear Necessities podcast. Today's episode is featuring not one, but two amazing guests. And I'm really excited because they're both Gen Z entrepreneurs. Well, one's true Gen Z and one is on the cusp, what we say, the millennial Gen Z generation. But what I love about this episode and what really wanted to share is two visionary thinkers who launched a brand new TEDx chapter in Bayonne, New Jersey with this year's theme of Re.think. And as I thought about what they're building and the fact that I know them both pretty well, I was really impressed by the vision and the idea of growth. And I think in the world that we have today and all the hardships and things that are seemingly hard, innovation is going to come out of this. And we need bright, young thinkers who are dreamers, right? And that's why I love the idea of Re.think. And I had an amazing opportunity to chat with an innovative thinker of mine named Matt Hooper, who was talking to me about dreams and details. That innovation comes from dreams, not solving problems. And I thought that was so intimate and unique. And I think about Re.think, it made sense to me. So that's why I wanted to have Carissa and Max join the podcast as they launch their first ever TEDx. So Carissa Lintao is hailed as a trailblazer by Forbes Media. She's an entrepreneur that has spent the past 5 years as a businesswoman, marketer, and educator. She is the CEO of Apptuitive, an award-winning marketing agency focused on mobile app marketing. She's been featured on TEDx, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, Road Trips Nation documentary, Venture Forward, and her entrepreneurial efforts and focus are utilizing technology for good. If I'm not mistaken, she is even taking this step into running for a council spot, right, Carissa?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Awesome. So that is Carissa Lintao. And my other guest is Maxime Sokolov. Did I say it right? I always
yes, that was correct. Yes.
Sokolov. I used to say Sokolov or Sokolov, and I put the K before the O for whatever reason until I realized finally, like after knowing Max for a year now? Plus. Like that. So Max is a full-time branding and marketing manager at Starta, which is how Max and I met. He's the co-organizer of the TedxBayonne, as we said, and he's a part-time freelance graphic designer who has also done a little bit of work with me, having a lot of fun doing some back-end work for Rise Up Media as well. He was born and raised in St. Petersburg, Russia, now living in New York City and making an impact in thinking about how to take brand and design to the next level in a fresh new way. So Max, Carissa, thank you so much for being a part of Bear Nation. I know it was a little long-winded, but really excited about this episode. Thank you for being here, and say what is up to Bear Nation for me.
Yeah, what is up, Bear Nation? Thank you so much for the space again, Rob. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
What's going on? What's up? Thank you, Rob. Rob, this is, like I said before the podcast, it's really excited for this, and yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. So, I kind of gave that lead in and background, and the first question I have, and Chris, I'll have you start. Why now? Why now? Why is now the time to start a new TEDx chapter in Bayonne?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give a little introduction about how Max and I met. But we had a mutual friend connect us,
That's a funny
and
story. Yeah.
yeah, no. So my friend connected us because I was looking for photographers / graphic designers to work at Apptuitive, my agency. And she was like, you should get in touch with Maxim. And I was like, oh, okay, of course. Like we're both like fairly local to Bayonne, Jersey City. So I met Max for coffee, and then we hit it off, and we talked for like an hour and a half. Something like that. A very long meeting, but we clicked like that, and that's like almost a rarity, especially for me. But I could tell we were definitely on the same wavelength. And then we were talking about how I gave a TED talk once and organized, and then Maxim was like, why didn't you just like start a TedxBayonne now? And I was like, okay, like I knew it was something that I wanted to do eventually at some point, but like he was just like, why not now? And just like, let's just do it. And so, fast forward 5 months later, and we sold out tickets in 24 something hours, and the event is already 2 months. So we put it together extremely fast. But time is always of the essence, and there's no better time to start than now, especially because Bayonne. I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later too, but we both feel that Bayonne is very underserved community when it comes to, I guess, big events like this.
Yeah.
We always make a joke in Bayonne. Max said this too at the first coffee that we had, but he was like, you can't take anyone out in Bayonne. You can't take anyone like anywhere. Like there's not a good like date spot. We don't have a movie theater anymore. It's like you need to go to Newport, you need to go to Jersey City, you need to go into New York City, you need to go into Hoboken. Like there's just nothing to do in Bayonne.
Yeah.
So we thought, why not now? Like this is the perfect time to put Bayonne on the map and give the community something that they could really get excited about. And the fact that we sold out, super quickly is a great testament to the fact that, there is an appetite out there, even though that Bayonne does have, I guess, like the stigma of, it's not cool, not hip, people out here like aren't cool per se.
Yeah.
People are definitely out there. It's just a matter of giving people, putting the product out, for lack of a better analogy, in front of the people and let the market, do as they please with it. So we've been very overwhelmed and really happy. For lack of a better word, with the response that we've been getting with the overwhelming amount of support.
That's awesome. And so, taking back to that coffee, Max, as you were sitting at coffee, what made you ask Carissa, like, why not organize yourself? Like, what were you feeling in that moment? And from your side of the conversation that really attracted you to this idea that, one, this could be done, that Chris is the one that could do it, and that you're the one to be a part of that? Like, how did that kind of flow through your brain?
Honestly, it was just so natural. Well, to start off, I've been a big fan of TEDx for quite some time. I absolutely love, as a designer, I just love their brand identity, their visual identity, how they present themselves. And I just love the idea of having a big audience. Everything is in black except that little red square in the middle where all the lights are on, and where some kind of idea that can change the world, idea worth sharing, is shared. And I've always been a fan of that. And when I heard that, I'm gonna get into like a little bit of the conversation that we had that same day, the specifics. What happened was Carissa started talking about how, for her agency, she was thinking of going to New York and Jersey City for like to have bigger clients because those markets are obviously bigger. And then she said, you know what? But I decided not to, because I want to give back to Bayonne. I want to have this social mission. And I said, wait a second. So you said you gave a TEDx talk before, you organized some TED events. Why don't we, if you want to give back, and I love TED Talks, and you want to give back to the city, why don't we combine those two things and make it TEDxBayonne? It was just like a logical, chain of thought. And I remember Carissa, like she looked up, she was like, wait a second, that makes a lot of sense.
Dude, I remember being so taken back in that moment because no one really ever said that, and that like threw me for a loop, because I'm usually one to predict how conversations go or whatever, and like forecast it out. But once Max said that, I was like, holy crap, like, you're kind of right. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't do this right now.
Rob, there was no like thought in my mind, and I'm sure in Carissa's mind, about possibility of whether we can do it or not. It was just, it sounds amazing. Sounds like an amazing idea. And it's, it has real social impact, and, kind of action went before thought here, like, you know what, let's do it. And then we'll come up with a reason and how to do it.
Yeah. So I love that, and that the way this kind of just naturally happened. And as you both looked at each other in that moment and kind of why not, what what are the next steps in terms of, well, it's a first meeting and it's great that it's natural, it's an hour and a half, like all these things, but not having a lot of time actually putting in work together, knowing each other too long, what was the next steps to ensure that, hey, we can't be co-organizers, let's go make this happen? Was there, Carissa, usually you like to plan things out. Was there a plan in place, or was it just like, let's go apply, figure this out as we go? Like, how did you develop a relationship to work together that has, seemingly been smooth considering how fast this has turned around?
Totally. So, I mean, that's what I like to always plan in advance. And I feel like that's a strong suit of mine. But I mean, I feel like I could get a good grasp on who people are and especially like their working styles, and the conversation that Max and I were having, like we just clicked like that. And that's, again, kind of a rarity for me. So, I mean, we had the idea and we were basically just like, okay, let's just do it. And so I was like, okay, this won't be too heavy of a lift compared to like if we were launching our own LLC or like our own like, marketing and branding company. Like this was pretty, like the risk and reward, I would say, was like slim to none in terms of like the risk we were taking on. So in my mind, I was just like, okay, you know what, let's just do it. Like all I need to do is just apply for the license, see if, I get approved for it. And then we can just, hit the ground running and get everything set up. I had the experience with setting up events in the past, and Maxim has, the marketing design background. So I knew that we would be able to work at a very fast pace, especially considering that both of us were already like very familiar with the startup life. I feel like if, we both had more corporate backgrounds, it would have taken us, a lot longer to get from point A to point B. But the fact that we were both like pretty much go and like knock everything out in our schedules relatively quickly, this was almost a no-brainer.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so, you both have entrepreneurial backgrounds, right? And Max, I know you very intimately in your story, and, you went to school for a year, realized it wasn't for you, had an awesome opportunity to join a venture-backed accelerator in New York City and do a rebrand for them. And through that have found a passion for entrepreneurship, marketing, and brand. How has that played into, this entrepreneurial background of yours, played into the mission of TEDx, Ideas Worth Spreading? Like, how is that, like, tell me a little bit about how you are drawn to that and how that, like, really works with, like, the brand of Max and what you want to do as you continue to grow in your journey that has started off hot in a year, in the last year, as you've just kind of hit the ground running and just taken on all these different projects.
It was just, it was very organic, and how my job at startup and venture capital connects to TEDx. I think I just love working on cool projects. Honestly, I think it just breaks down to that. Whatever inspires me, I love doing cool shit. That's my thing. And TEDx seemed very impressive, and it has real impact. As a guy who does design, branding, marketing, a wide variety of things, what really motivates me to do these things is kind of the impact behind it. And for example, that's the case with Startup. We're doing a very different thing in venture capital. We're very kind of, I want to say anti-corporate, but we're not exactly corporate. We have a very different culture. And with TEDx and in Bayonne, I went to high school in Bayonne, and I know the city. I know what it's like. And to me, well, first, what came is really the idea of doing TEDx. That's awesome. Organize one, amazing. But then as I started thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second. Organizing a whole new chapter in Bayonne with TEDx, it's going to be such an inspiring thing for, kids younger than me, like middle school kids, high school kids, because going to high school there, I just realized, first of all, like Carissa said, there's nowhere to take a girl out on a date in Bayonne. That's just like the reality, right? That's all. I always joke about that. But besides that, there's also like no kind of source of inspiration in the city. And city is Bayonne, for those listeners who don't know, Bayonne is as close to New York as Brooklyn is, as Brighton Beach is. And that's not far at all. It's very close to New York City. And New York City is the hub, the world hub for everything. So, but unfortunately, Bayonne only gets the scraps of that. It gets the scraps of, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Jersey City. And to us, really TEDx Bayonne is the kind of a movement bringing back, setting an example of what education can be. It's a movement that starts moving towards a more modern direction, because Bayonne, a lot of people say this, and unfortunately it's true, it is kind of stuck in the past. And I can kind of segue into the theme of the very first event, which is Re.think, which very much connects and talks about, Bayonne as a city. But it just seemed like a very natural thing to do, and very organic like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really interesting because, if you look up TEDx itself, right, it's based out of New York. There's, Carissa, you did TEDx at Chelsea Park. I know there's a couple other TEDx in Jersey chapters that have popped up in the past. And, for those that don't know, Bayonne is kind of a little farther south. You're kind of right there at Staten Island, the bottom of Manhattan there in the financial district. But you're right. Like, there's Jersey City, there's Hoboken that gets a lot of that initial washover from Manhattan first, right? And so I love that you're thinking about how do we give back to the community that we serve and give them inspiration, knowing that we're right there, we're this close, we can have these opportunities, but we can also bring that here. And that makes an impact for what the future of the city could look like. And so, Chris, as you think about your entrepreneurial background and, having done a lot of this before, and you're launching this very quickly while being the CEO of your own award-winning agency and now running for council, how have you been able to manage all of that and own those projects? And how has that been for you as just your own journey taking this on?
Totally. Yeah, for sure. So, I feel like I'm all over the place. I could show you just for some fun visual references as to what my kind of like life whiteboard looks like. And that's only like one. And I have like Trello boards and Slack channels open up for like every single thing. But what helps me is kind of like breaking down, this is getting like super tactical into like life management skills almost. But I like to have like one big overarching milestones and then break things up practically. So month by month, week by week, and then what I'm working on day of. Just breaking things down and laying it out like a roadmap is a huge thing for me because I have, a ton of different ventures going on, and that's not even including me trying to have a social life or, get into anything else. But yeah, so the whiteboard planning and having everything on paper is huge.
I love that. And so being able to kind of manage these projects and relationships and having a co-organizer helps. And I think both of you, like you said, having that entrepreneurial spirit and background and working at a fast project pace is super helpful in something like this and building it. What is, besides selling out in a matter of like 25 hours, besides all the love and outpouring of support for this project, what has surprised you most about the experience so far? Max, let's start with you. What surprised you most about putting this together, organizing this event so far, outside of the two things that I just mentioned?
Well, I'd say there are two things, two points here. Number one is it's been going really smooth. And, they say, oh my God, you're embarking on your project. You're going to meet a lot of resistance, a lot of roadblocks. In my mind, there've been roadblocks, but we're so connected to the idea of doing it. Like the option of not to do it, to give up, things like that. They were not even on periphery, we're just giving up. What's that? Like, I haven't heard that term before, and really it's this, this feeling of complete flow. If I'm not sure if your listeners or if you have read the book called Flow, talks about how you're so involved in the process that the time passes fast. You don't focus. You're so completely focused and involved in what you're doing. Nothing else matters, right? And I've been really surprised by that. And the second thing, what I'm really surprised and pleased by is really meeting Carissa, because honestly, from the first day, it's kind of a love story in a sense. But I have worked with a lot of people in the past, and I've had some projects in Bayonne, similar to TedxBayonne actually, which we might touch by in the future. But my best friend, and we could not work together, like not at all. We were arguing all the time. There was just no synergy whatsoever. But with Carissa, remember last month and a half, I think we were reviewing all the applications. And I just remember that whole day, it was like 6 hours. I came over, started co-working together. And those 6 hours, they were pure synergy and chemistry. I feel like we're very similar in the way we work. We're both love planning, and we love we're just on the same page. I can't even describe, I'm not sure if I can put it into words, but we're on the same page, and we can talk for hours and hours, and we agree on stuff. We trust each other, and I'm really surprised and pleased by that.
Yeah, I think it's really unique and I train a lot and talk with entrepreneurs a lot, especially co-founders, and I had a successful exit with Hapday Group, and people ask me, like, how did you and Phil work so well? And I said, well, one, there was a natural just kind of connection of understanding, and we kind of filled each other in. But also we, early on, we set clear expectations of who owned what and how we did things. And because we had that natural kind of connection and we knew what each other owned and backed, it made for, there's always bumps in the road as you go through things. But when you're on that same page and you're in that flow state, it makes it really easy to fill in the gaps and know who owns what. And you have that confidence in each other to get the job done. And it really shows through here. So I really want to get into this idea of Re.think. Where did this idea come from?
Carissa?
Either one of you can jump in. How did this idea of
Max.
Re.think?
I feel like Max always gives this elevator speech better than I can, so.
Oh, come on. But sure. Honestly, I don't remember the exact details of how it came up, but at some point we sat down like, okay, so for the first event, we need some kind of theme. And for those of you who don't know, every TEDx event, and TEDx means independently organized, for every independently organized TED event, you need to come up with a theme for the conference. And doing it in Bayonne, we knew that the theme has to resonate. It has to connect with the people. And our goal, like I said before, with TedxBayonne is really to set an example of what education can be, set an example of what be an inspiration for people, and kind of bring a new perspective, a fresher perspective to the city, because the city is sort of stuck in the past. And there's a lot of Gen Zers like myself who are super forward thinking, super innovative. Let's just cross everything out, do this way. We're super dynamic like that. But also like an older generation, and even people who are even my age. Some of them are just so really, I don't want to say hiding, but they're just very precious of what they have in Bayonne, and change is scary, and that's very, very understandable. And for us to come in and say, you know what, we're going to revolutionize everything, we're going to change everything is going to be good, it's not a good slogan in that case. We want it to be more grounded and say, you know what, look, some things that we're doing in Bayonne as a city are good, some of them are bad, but we don't know unless we really rethink it. And kind of say, coming in and saying, hey, let's revolutionize everything is not a good slogan. And we decided, you know what, rethink, because we want to stop, just reevaluate where we are. Yeah. Just stop for a second, because we're running, or we're just standing, just stop for a second, reevaluate, and understand why are we in the path we're at. Is this the right path? If is it not? And, then make the change appropriate. Make the change that's appropriate to that.
So one thing I think is really interesting about the concept of Re.think, and when we think about change, I think we can't think about change in a way that it happens overnight, right? Change has to start with a thought. And for real change and innovation to happen, it has to start with a thought and a dream, and change the thinking about how we look at things. And once you change the thoughts, you can start changing the actions. And I really think that was something that really inspired me when I heard Re.think and I heard this topic. I just thought, wow, it's before even change can happen, it's let's evaluate how we think, and let's rethink what is possible. Again, I kind of go back to this conversation I had in this book called Dreams and Details, right? In order for real innovation to happen, and innovation at the city level, right, for Bayonne, it needs to start with a thought and a dream. And then from there, those things can happen. So to me, it resonated. And even more so in the last 2 weeks of some of the conversations I've been having. So I've loved that. I really like this idea of Re.think. So Carissa, as we think about this idea of Re.think and we look at what you're building and why you're doing it, what is the impact that you hope happens from the first TedxBayonne conference?
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest thing for me is, giving a TEDx talk. Well, first I started off organizing, and then I gave a TED talk, and I was like, wow, this is, one of the most life-changing things I've arguably done in my life. And there's no reason why, a layperson, using that as, kind of analogy, that a layperson couldn't give a TED talk. Because I feel like TED talks are almost like gate kept. So it's always like, people are like, oh my God, I can't give a TED talk. Like, these people are perfect. They up on stage. They're completely memorized. They have this subject matter expertise. I can't do that. When it's like, yes, you can. All you need is, what TED is looking for, what we look for in all of our applications is the one idea worth sharing. You don't need to have 100 million followers on Instagram. You don't need to be, a PhD from Harvard. As long as your idea is novel, unique, and impacts other people, you are more than qualified to give a TED talk. And that's really the real lasting impact that I want this event conference to have on Bayonne, is to show the community that, if these people can do it, you can do it too. A big focus that I wanted to have was including as many different people in this city as possible, which is not something a lot of, kind of TEDx events do. It's usually like whoever wants to volunteer can volunteer, because it's 100% volunteer run event. And, we're relying on donations and sponsors to keep it going. We're not taking a cut or a profit from this. So it's really hard, and it is almost like a completely separate job, honestly. For that sense, people are looking for whatever help they can get. But I really wanted this entire team from, the founding team. Max and I are both local to Hudson County. The makeup of the speakers, we have 2 speakers from Bayonne, 1 from Union. And then a lot of our volunteers are hopefully going to be all based in Bayonne. So I wanted almost a completely local focus as much as possible. Because again, we just wanted to show the city that, if we could do it, like, you can do it as well, and just be that platform for the voices that are in Bayonne. Because it's not like, TEDx worthy people don't live in Bayonne. There are so many incredible minds that live here. It's crazy. And that's probably the one takeaway that I got that was so surprised from this, is that there's so many people in this city that have such brilliant ideas, but they wouldn't have known about the opportunity, if we didn't, go completely out of our way with like marketing. Maxim even puts, money out of his own pocket into like the marketing and advertising on Instagram. It's just that we want everyone in the city to know about this and be that platform for other people's voices.
But I also think that's really unique and awesome, is that it's easy to go find 5-6 speakers from New York City. Like, there's a plethora of easily just, let's go to New York City and pull these people. And the fact that you focused on local speakers, local opportunities, local thoughts, right? Ideas worth sharing. And that to me is really, really unique, especially in the fact that, for those out there listening, like, I applied to speak at TEDx. And, one of the things that TedxBayonne, one of the things is I sit back and think about that from a different lens. As much as I wanted to be on that stage and do that, I think it's almost awesome that I'm not, that the speakers are local to that area for the first one, that it is those ideas, it is those things, and that it really hones in and shines a light of like, hey, we're here. Yes, we're close. Yes, we could pull from here, but we also can give to there, right? And I say here and there as New York City. And that is powerful, right? And that is powerful in a way of creating an ecosystem that expands into a bigger opportunity for everybody in the community and for more to experience the opportunities in Bayonne, and hopefully put in another movie theater, get some nice restaurants in there so you can take somebody out on a date, and have more opportunities to not always have to travel up to Union City or Jersey City or Hoboken to go out. Exactly. So I think that's really awesome. A big question I have for both of you is, when this is done, the event is over, last speaker, it closes out, and you think about how you felt and what this whole experience means, what do you hope happens? what do you hope is the lasting effect of this first conference?
Do you want to answer first,
Max, why don't you start?
I feel like we haven't really thought. We know what we want it to be next, but kind of what the feeling will be, what the exact next steps are after the event. I feel like we've been so involved in the moment. I feel like, Carissa, I feel like I'm speaking for both of us here, that we're just so involved in the moment that we haven't really processed that yet. But I guess our vision for this is, because running a TEDx event really yearly is a big effort. It's a huge commitment. And, we have our own things in a career going on. And our really idea here is we want to plant a seed in Bayonne, and then attract a local team to, or start a movement to keep pushing this forward, and then step back probably as an advisory role for this, because, we can organize this all we want, but this is not for our enjoyment. This is for the people of Bayonne. And we want probably middle school or high school students to come onto this team and, learn from us, learn from this event, and give them this opportunity to host a TED Talks event in their own city, because it's a huge experience for them. It's an insane inspiration. And, I think more suitable for this than us are people who are actually were born in Bayonne. I know Carissa were born in Bayonne, but I wasn't. I just only lived there for 4 years. And, we want to give that impact to them.
Yeah.
They know what's best for the city better than personally me. And I think that's what it's all about.
So planting a seed so that future generations can pick up the torch and start from Re.think to making change.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Max.
And that's kind of the heart of the question. Carissa, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say Max kind of nailed it on the head when, we are kind of working day in and day out to make sure this event is perfect. But I mean, the whole reason why we're doing this is because we do want it to be evergreen. We want it to be lasting. We are working towards this big flagship event, but that kind of encapsulates the whole year round. I think I told Max this a few times, but it's just I don't want the people that I want at the conference. I don't want people who are there just to be oh yeah, I went to TedxBayonne. We could have sold out tickets to anyone. We could have, but we really want people there who see this as, okay, this is a great networking opportunity to talk to, like-minded people, forward-thinking people. I want people there who are going to take takeaways from this event. I want people to learn from each and every single one of the speakers that we have on the stage, because we chose each and every one of those people for a reason. They're talking about a ton of different topics, and we curated the event so people could take away, a ton of different things that they could implement immediately right after the first event. So we want people from this event, then one after, the next one, until, the year 2080, when we want them to, just see this as, the one, maybe not the one event they're looking forward to the entire year, but it's just oh my God, TEDxBayonne is happening again. I want that ticket. I wonder what I'm going to learn this year and how it's going to implement, within the next year. That's the real lasting impact we want TEDxBayonne to have.
I love that.
If I may add, Rob, it's very easy to find a person who wants to put TEDx speaker in their resume.
Yeah.
It's very easy, unbelievably easy. And for us, when we're picking out the speakers, when we were reviewing all the applications, that was a big point for us. We wanted people who, sure, they have a great idea, but if it's really not coming from a genuine place, a place where you really want to share this idea, you're super connected to the mission, and whether it's TEDx or in the middle of a square, in the middle of a park, or if it's on stage in office, wherever it is, you just want to share it. I mean, that's what we're really looking for. And it was a huge point for us.
Yeah, I think you had over 200 applications and you have 5 speakers, right? That's a huge undertaking to curating that. Well, one, I think amazing that you had that many applications, but to curate down to 5 key speakers that fit the mission, that fit the impact, that fit the bill is such a tough process to do. And I think, I've seen the lineup and I'm excited about it. I have my ticket. So I think that's an amazing thing. It's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to do. And I think that's something that's so cool. And I'm excited to see the impact it has. And to see those takeaways and to see what happens after the conversations that get to happen because of that event and what the future looks like for that. So I think it's really honorable. And I think it's just awesome the fact that the two of you came together through chance, through a mutual friend, and quickly turned into something that we want to make a big impact in a big way. And that's what I think TedxBayonne can do for the city, but also for a lot of different things in the way that people view the city and the future of that city and the future of opportunity in the city. And for the both of you to kind of build upon your resumes as you're growing in your careers and to have some sort of legacy impact like that, you know, as it runs through 2080, right? To be like, I started that. I was the founding co-organizer. And now I can look back and that's an amazing thing to see. So kudos to both of you to really do this and to take this on at this time, this fast, push it all across as you're doing 100 other things, as I both said in both your intros. You have a lot going on. It's not like you're sitting around with a bunch of free time on your hands. You know, it's quite a feat to be able to pull that off in 7 months. So as I come to the end of this episode, I really love always asking people this question. And I'm going to start with you, Carissa. What is your superpower?
My superpower. I always have this, my way of thinking is that everyone's greatest strengthness, oh my gosh, everyone's biggest strength is also their weakness. And everyone's biggest weakness is kind of their biggest strength. So I feel like mine is definitely introspection. So being able to forecast out and plan long term, but then that could also be, you know, a big weakness of mine because I could get very tied up in thinking, you know, is this the right decision? And it almost becomes choice paralysis. You know, is this the right thing to do? Yeah. Is it not? So I would say my big thing is introspection.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that kind of comes across too in all the things that you're doing. And I have a feeling, because I know Max, and hearing what his superpower is going to be in a second, that to have that introspection as your superpower sets you up to be a great place to run a business, to potentially go into city council, to co-organize something like this. And what you kind of need is somebody that has a little bit different superpower. So Max, what is your superpower?
My superpower is, and I think Carissa said it best, that, you know, superpowers are also weaknesses, you know, at the end of the day. It has like a double-sided coin. But I think mine is, a lot of times I bite more than I can chew.
Yeah.
You know, with TEDx, I mean, I've organized some events before in the past, but TEDx is a whole new level. And I'm a fan of TEDx, but until that point, I wasn't really familiar with the format as much. Mm-hmm. And it was really an open sea for me. I had unexplored territory. I haven't been there before. And I did it anyways. I was like, you know what, whatever. We'll do it, and I'll figure out on the way. And I've had a lot of projects like that. And me, you know, not finishing college, not knowing what the future is going to hold for me. And I've had a lot of clients where I take them on and I don't know exactly what to do. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they give me this task, is this project. I don't know what to do, but hey, I'm going to learn. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to figure this out, because if I'm not biting more than I can chew, then I'm really not growing. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, it's really that basic cliche saying, hey, challenge yourself, but it's, you know, it bears mentioning. It bears repetition.
I love that. And that's why I say I kind of feel like I knew where your superpower might be. I was going to say Max is somebody that always bets on himself, right? And no matter if he knows it or not, he's going to go figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so to have kind of those two sides also doesn't surprise me what makes you both a great team, and to kind of balance each other out and challenge each other in the right ways to go create something is probably why this has happened. You know, not without its own roadblocks and challenges, but surprisingly smooth and happens so fast. And I think that's really awesome and self-aware. And I think the reason why I love asking this question is you really get to see who's self-aware. And when you can look internally and define that, it's such a unique characteristic, and it's a strength and a weakness at times. So I love that you shared that, Carissa.
For sure.
When we think about entrepreneurship, and organizing an event and this idea of Re.think. And you had a chance to like say the last words on stage, and you have a room full of people who are wanting to take us and be entrepreneurs and do these different things. What would you say to them? What would be your kind of lasting message is if you were on the stage closing out that conversation? What would be your like one liner, your one kind of piece of advice?
So whenever I get this question, I almost like, this is a cop-out answer, but I always say it anyways, because it's literally the most true thing that I've ever heard on this earth, like being the 25 years of my life. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I might have said this to Max before. You know Nike's tagline?
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Of course I know Nike's
exactly,
tagline. I'm rocking my Nike pullover.
It's just like, just do it. They coined the best tagline, and I will go to my grave, as a marketing and advertising person with that. Just like Nike really slammed it on the head with just do it. Because like Maxim said, I mean, if you're not constantly getting outside your comfort zone, you're not challenging yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. So everything starts with, just taking one step at a time. So you really have to just do it, plain and simple.
Yeah. I love it. And it's so simple and it's so hard, right? Because there's so many reasons not to that it's easy to cop out. And that's why I think it hits on the nail on the head. Just do it. Max, what would you say?
I really believe in the idea. And that's one of the things that my dad taught me growing up. He was the guy who he had a lot of ventures going on. And, watching him work, he was kind of leading by example in a lot of respects in his professional life. And he tackled on projects that he didn't really know what to do exactly, but he learned on the way. I really believe he instilled that idea in me that jumping off the cliff and learning how to fly is really the best way to go. And I want to say it's the best way to go. It's just it yields a very high return.
Yeah.
It's high risk, but it's also high return. And personally, in my character, I feel like if I don't jump, then I might as well, not do it all, because it's this risk taking it's very exhilarating to me, and I think it's a necessary quality to have as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Not only not being afraid of jumping off a cliff, but wanting to.
Yeah.
So
I love that, because I think it comes down to two words: being curious. And one of my friends, Taylor King, came on the podcast, and he used this analogy called glass or air. And what that is that you're in this box up in the sky, and you have 4 ways that you can jump. And 3 of them are glass and 1 of them are air, and you can't see. You don't know which ones are which. And you have to just jump through that door and see what happens. And you may jump and smack into glass, right? And that's not the right path for me, right? So you try again. Eventually you're going to jump out where it's air, and you're going to fall. And you're not going to know where it's going to take you, but that's the right path to go on, and you learn from it and you grow from it, right? So as you were saying that, Max, the jump, I always think of that analogy of glass or air. It's that if you're not taking risks and taking chances, then you won't go anywhere, right? We talk about rethink. We have to have ideas. We have to be unafraid to try. Because if we don't try, nothing's going to change, right? And for real change to happen, we have to start with a thought. And a thought turns into an idea worth spreading. And I think that's what's so powerful about this, right? And that's why I really wanted to share both your story, and I'm really excited. The event is April what?
21st.
April 21st in Bayonne. I know that there's no more tickets available, but how can they follow along on the journey? How can they, connect with you, and how can they follow along with TedxBayonne? And if anybody out there wants to get involved, sponsoring, et cetera, how do they get in touch with y'all?
For sure. So, we're at TedxBayonne on all platforms. If you want to send us an email, either myself or Max will get to it at info@TedxBayonne.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which has also been exponentially growing right on our website. That's probably the fastest way. We kind of communicate with our fan base directly via email. And then I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all the things at Carissa Jade or Carissa Lintao.
Awesome. What about Max? What about you? Where can they find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I mostly sit and have fun. LinkedIn, it's just Maxime Sokolov, Maxim Sokolov. So yeah, looking forward to connecting with the Bear Nation.
I love it. Well, I will make sure to link all of that in the show notes. They can go to the website. They can sign up for the newsletter. They can follow you on LinkedIn. They can follow you on all the platforms. And, if there's anything I can ever do, obviously let me know. I appreciate you both for being a part of Bear Nation, for jumping on and chatting about impact and what you're looking to create. And I cannot wait to come to the event in April. I'm looking forward to learning something, and I'm really excited to see what the seeds you plant and what they yield in future evolutions of TEDx, Bayonne, and what ideas are worth spreading coming soon. So thank you both for being a part of this episode.
Much,
I appreciate you both.
Thank you, Rob. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bear Nation, thanks for tuning in once again. Until next time, stay well and rise up. Bear Nation, once again, thank you for tuning in and listening to the Bear Necessities podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help and means a lot to us, the show. And I want to thank our friends over at Fin. Fin is a social good platform that creates employee engagement and builds culture. It's our mission to support and give back to the communities that we serve around the world. And we do this by giving every guest on our show a $10 donation to the cause of their choosing using the Fin platform. Until next time, thank y'all, stay well, and rise up.